Alright, so we're here at the National City Burning River Classic, the 2009 running of the event. It's our third year, and we've grown bigger and better every year, and Natalie, you keep taking the title. So that was a fun final. You just played Alison Waters, 3-1 victor. Did everything go as you were hoping?
Well, I lost my first game in this tournament. You keep on telling me that I haven't actually lost any games, but Alison came out firing, and you know, steadily over the last year, you've seen a big improvement in, you know, the likes of Alison, Laura Langthorne's another English player, Jenny Duncalf. There's a number of English players that are starting to kind of push through and really extend the top players. So I really knew that I was going to be in for it. She also beat Rachel Grinham, who's the world number 3, smoked her really, 3-love yesterday. And when she took that first game, even though it was a battle all the way through and I stuck with her, I really needed to make sure that I upped my game again and concentrated really hard all the way through.
So Natalie, you're head of the Whisper board, pretty much. You're really the spokesperson for all the female squash players around the world, and you're playing in different continents all over the world. How do you see squash growing in different locations?
It's been really interesting actually, especially in places like Malaysia, Hong Kong, the Netherlands. We've developed, they've been developing programs where they've got juniors coming through. They're also putting on a lot of new tournaments. So instead of maybe trying to hold one big event, they've decided to spread the money a little bit. They've registered all their tournaments, and that allows the local players to play a lot more. So they might have like a string of 4 or 5, up to 10 events in these different countries. And those range from very small events up to some of the bigger major events. And what you're seeing is that a lot of those juniors are actually now winning World Junior Championships. They're now on the tour playing Whisper a lot, and they're coming on. We've also implemented other things like the Whisper Under 3 Rising Stars. It's a ranking list that allows national countries to register their open events. So it could be the English Open or the US Open, all the junior events. And those players, the girls, are actually able to get ranking points that actually, if they join Whisper as a member, they can take those ranking points and put them towards a proper world ranking. And I think what that's done is actually allowed us to, instead of maybe picking up 1 or 2 players that are the cream of the crop that are coming from these countries, we're actually seeing 7 or 8, maybe even 10 players registering with Whisper and actually giving a professional career a go.
So this is a big year for squash. We're down to the last 7 for the Olympic Games vote.
Yeah.
Now you're heavily involved with that. What's the status and what can we do to try and help squash become a little bit more recognised?
You know, I think the squash has had the stigma that it's not a TV sport. And that stigma for me, it sort of really gets to me because I've seen some unbelievable TV footage of squash. And I think the main issue for us really has actually been funding. Now we're a bit of a boutique, strange sport where we have, you know, a lot of money within the game, but not necessarily massive amounts in terms of sponsorships. So the players are actually involved with a lot of good people and a lot of sponsors. But it's kind of very targeted and smaller. It's not like you're getting your massive sponsorships where you're looking at, you know, the tennis tournaments, golf tournaments, those kind of things. We're a little different, but people can really get to us and get to the top players. So it's a unique kind of sport, and I think with some more money and with some more sponsorship and with the Olympic Games for us, I think squash will just boom, because I've seen squash where the TV has actually got right up close. You can see the muscles rippling on the players' legs as they change direction. You can see the ball all over the court, and it's vivid and it's action-packed, kind of like you're actually right there at the game. And I think if we're able to do that around the world at all the different tournaments that we actually play in, it will be a TV sport, but that takes obviously a lot of funding, and the sport at the moment lacks that. So I truly believe that we're the right sport for the Olympic Games. I think we can bring so much to it. I think we bring universality. We've got world number 1s and world champions that have emanated from all over the world. It's truly a big spectator sport and a participation sport. There's juniors, seniors, there's massive amounts of veterans that are playing as well. They have like something like 700 to 800 masters that showed up to the World Masters in New Zealand last year. So it really is a game for everyone, and we're bringing that. And I think from what we could gain from being an Olympic sport is exposure. And we're primed and ready. We can stick glass courts anywhere in the world. I mean, we play in the Hong Kong waterfront, Grand Central Station, Pyramids at Giza. The list goes on. And, you know, they're cool glass boxes, and they've got the best athletes in the world wanting to kill each other on the court. It's real action. And I think with something like the Olympics, that'll just mean everything for us in terms of PR and raising the profile of the sport and taking us to the next level.
Now there's squash at the moment on the Tennis Channel. There's also squash played when we have the Commonwealth Games. There's coverage from the Asian Games, the Pan American Games, and we do have some coverage, but it's never really on the main networks. Now the squash that we see on TV tends to be, because the stages of the tournament, the top 5, 6 players in the world. Now if we go down the rankings and we look at some of the players maybe in the 30s, 40s that might be the ones representing their countries in the Olympic Games, do we see the same level of athleticism as we're seeing with those top players?
You know what is very interesting is with squash is that when you've, I think especially in the women's game, what has actually happened over the last 5 years is the standard has greatly improved across the board. There's a lot more depth, and which is terrific, and I think that has a lot to do with, you know, what I was talking about earlier about having more juniors getting involved and things like that. But when you have 2 players on a squash court and they're battling it out, it's a good contest, no matter who's playing. You could have players that are ranked 1,000 in the world or 1,000,000 in the world, and if you've got another person that's on the court there battling away with them, it's good to watch. I definitely think that there's a difference. There's a big difference in standard between the top few players in the world and the brackets down sort of 30s and 40s. But it's no different to tennis or golf or anything else. You have to have the best. Someone has to be the best, and there's reasons for that. You know, squash brings everything: mental, strategic, tactical, and technical. And I mean, the physical aspects of the game. Everything, it brings everything. So if you're looking at a top player that is actually maybe is 9 out of 10 on most of those things, or maybe a 10 out of 10 in comparison, you know, to others. You know, the players that are maybe working on those aspects in their game and they're at 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10, maybe they're 9 out of 10 in certain things. There's a lot of things that you have to cover in order to get to be the best player. And I think maybe that's why it's harder to actually beat good, solid players that have been around for a long time.